Hello and welcome to this week's webcast of One-on-One Sports. I'm Matt Holzapfel.
And I'm Andrew Vendelis. We have a lot of exciting news to cover, so let's jump right into the three strikes.
U.S. Soccer has a new president, Carlos Cordero. Cordero was previously the vice president for the federation, which has people saying that he doesn't represent the change that fans and players had hoped for in this election. Andrew, does Cordero being elected represent a change in the league, or does it mean we're going to see more of the same?
Not at all. And anyone who has high expectations for Cordero coming in, they need to get rid of him immediately. He doesn't know a thing, even though he's a so-called insider being brought in. He worked for Goldman Sachs, and then he was the VP, as you mentioned. But he even admitted that he doesn't know a thing about soccer and that he's still learning. So how can you trust this guy as the head of your organization?
Very disturbing as well. He said he's, quote, not a soccer expert. So I'm questioning, well, how did he get to the top of U.S.
How did he
soccer?
become VP and then president?
And I think with all the fuss and outspokenness, especially after the recent lack of success for the U.S. men's national team, people wanted to change, but we really didn't have one. So I think people are disappointed. A lot of people in the community, in the fanhood for soccer.
Exactly, and it's just playing off of the U.S. not making the 2018 World Cup and just seeing an overall decline in quality of play. But anyone who really wants to get their hopes up for this team, they shouldn't be happy with this decision.
I think you also have to look at, the favorite was Kathy Carter, who was the CEO of MLS's marketing department. Another facet of U.S. soccer show, the top two favorites were members of U.S. soccer already. So we already were looking at someone not from the outside coming in, being the new president. So there really wasn't much of a chance for change anyway. Now, obviously, we don't know what kind of new ideas he'll have. But
exactly, but anyone expecting this team to get better overnight needs to put their opinions in check.
Exactly.
San Antonio Spurs star forward Kawhi Leonard has missed all but 9 games this season with a nagging quadricep injury. Leonard has been medically cleared to play but has elected against returning to the active roster. San Antonio is currently tied for third place in the Western Conference standings with only 22 games to play. If you're Greg Popovich, do you let him rest or do you try to bring him back in hopes for a late playoff push?
I absolutely let him rest. And you said it when you said they're third in the West. They're in a fine position. No one's catching Houston or Golden State in the top 2. I think they'll have no trouble getting a top 5 seed. And if you think Greg Popovich is going to force one of his players to play, you don't know Greg Popovich as a coach.
And it's not like they're in danger of losing a playoff spot or losing it in general. Right now, they're actually 4th in the West, and they would face the Pelicans if the season ended today. And preventing all setbacks necessary for Kawhi is absolutely the way to go because this has just been a bad season for him.
Especially if he ends up coming back later in the season or even in the playoffs, he sets them up perfectly for a playoff run. I really think they can contend with Houston and Golden State.
And 22 games is a lot of time to rest in between. So there's literally no rush to get Kawhi back. And if they're lucky, they definitely can beat New Orleans if it were to end today. And hypothetically speaking, I think they can beat most of the teams in a first-round matchup.
It's a very Derrick Rose situation. He's been medically cleared, but obviously something's still not right. Either he's discomforted by the injury.
Because he would have come back already. That's without a doubt.
Or he just doesn't trust his quad yet. And so I think letting him rest is fine because we saw what happened when they forced D. Rose back. He wasn't ready. He ended up taking time away from basketball. You got to wait till
You
Kawhi's
could even
ready.
see that with Kawhi today, this year as well. Bringing him back just a little bit too early perhaps, and he just kept getting re-injured. When you have a star at the caliber of Kawhi Leonard, you want him back 100%.
And as your franchise player, you have to protect him and make sure he's ready, even if it's the whole season. Let the season pass. Next season, he'll be fine.
Exactly.
Late last week, multiple reports emerged on the FBI's multi-year probe into college basketball recruiting. The report details a number of high-profile schools in the pay-to-play scandal, such as Duke, UNC, and Michigan State, and identifies a long list of players and coaches who have potentially broken the NCAA's rules regarding teams paying players to attend their schools. Andrew, what does this mean for the future of college basketball, and there need to be some rule changes for recruiting?
I hate to be the pessimist here once again, but nothing's going to come of this. LeBron James today just called the NBA out for being corrupt, and without a doubt, he is correct. He said there's no solution in sight, and this has been going on for many years. As we saw with Rick Pitino just earlier in the season getting exposed himself, it's clear that there are many layers to this NCAA situation, but they're not going to do anything about it.
Something's going to happen. It's not the NCAA enforcing anything, that's for sure, because they're scared. They won't do that. We'll get back to that in a moment. But something's going to happen, and it's either going to be players are going to start going overseas, or they're just going to make paying players illegal.
LeBron even looked up at an NBA alternative for younger players, maybe a camp sort of thing where they get to get more
Next thing we'll know, we'll see all the high school players going into the LeVar Ball League. I digress. But look at some of the individual cases. Wendell Carter, his parents had dinner with an agent. They left before even ordering because they were too uncomfortable with it. So Carter's name was mentioned. Non-factor, nothing happened. Miles Bridges, same deal, dinner with an agent, $40 value, right? He was indefinitely suspended, so Michigan State applied for his reinstatement in the NCAA. You know what they said? Just give those $40 to charity. You're back on the
It's
team.
just not worth it at all because it's 100,000% a big problem, too big to be solved right away by the NCAA. If they're going to want to work towards making a better solution, it's going to take years, but I think it's all going to blow up in the NCAA's face before anyone finds a solution.
I want to look at a quote that Lonzo Ball said last Friday. He said, quote, "Everybody knows everybody's getting paid. That's just how it is. Everybody's getting paid anyway. You might as well make it legal." And so this FBI probe proves that not only is everyone getting paid, the NCAA knows everyone's getting paid, but they're not doing anything about it because.
And nobody's taking activism to right that wrong. It's a college organization, and you don't really see this, at least on surface level, with football or any other sports. So basketball is getting the worst of it, and at the same time, you got to try to fix this, whether if it has to be the NBA executives getting involved or people like LeVar Ball or LeBron James even, because we know they have the funds opening up alternatives to this.
They don't care. They don't care about academics. They don't care about how players get to the NBA.
But certain players
Here's
might.
the thing. The one and done rule is my problem. The one and done rule is not the NCAA's rule. It's the NBA's rule. It entails two things: being 19 and being 1 year removed from high school graduation.
So what would you do in
So that very much allows players to go play overseas. We saw Brandon Jennings was the first one to do it. Emmanuel Mudiay recently, Terrence Ferguson recently. We're seeing it now. It's kind of with LiAngelo, LaMelo Ball. So if the NCAA is letting this happen and then kind of just pushing it under the rug and then starting to punish players. If they punish them more, players will be like, well, I'm out of here. I'm going to go play overseas and not worry about this.
It could just be a lose-lose for college basketball and pro, and that's not anything anyone wants to see, but it's all going to escalate very quickly.
LeBron James said this, and you mentioned it earlier. People are valuing that NCAA education less and less, and LeBron said, I'm not going there for an education, and everyone knows that. They're going here to play 1 year of basketball and then go to the NBA and make money.
As you mentioned with Lonzo Ball, we saw that right away because we knew if Lonzo Ball could go straight out of high school or with that 1 year at UCLA, he would, no matter how much money anybody was giving him. So it didn't really make a difference.
Exactly, and especially because you can go overseas and make that money immediately, and so many players are in a situation where they need to make money for their families for whatever reason.
I think the issue is just that the NCAA is too complacent with their corrupt ways of doing this.
Exactly, and something has to change. I really don't put my faith in the NCAA to do anything special about it. I really think something's going to happen. It's going to be anti-NCAA because they have nothing to do for their own good.
It's going to take people with powerful voices to change this.
I agree with that.
Coming up, we will debate who deserves a few of the mid-season awards in the NBA. Stay tuned.